The 53 is in. Welcome in to the CHGO Bears Podcast, as we have made it to cut down day. Not always a fun day, but we do get clarity on the roster. CHGO Bears preseason coverage is presented by Ray Chevrolet. Shop the new car clearance event all month long by visiting Ray Chevrolet in Fox Lake or raychevrolet.com. They've been serving the community since 1963. Together, let's drive. What's going on, Bears fans? Adam Hoge, Nicholas Moreano, Greg Braggs Jr. Good to see Greg. Everything's, I don't know, nothing happened to me. Looks exactly.
I'm not on. They didn't put me on season IR, so I'm gonna make it.
Good progress.
It's too bad. Again, one like equals one prayer for Braggs. The prayer doesn't have to be about his knee. You can pray for anything involving Greg Braggs, and those are all accepted. Please hit that like button. We got a big crowd that's already in here today. We waited a little extra time to get the Bears 53-man roster in, but we've been sorting through it. We are ready to go.
Thank God we did, because we were going to go live at 3. We would have been waiting 50 minutes for this roster to come out.
Yeah, no kidding.
Whole show.
But we are ready to go, and I think we'll start with, let's start with a $100 super chat. That's a great way to start the show. Screw whatever we had in the rundown. That takes priority. Kerry Huss with $100 to start it off. Bears 53. Let's go. And yes, it was controversial, but Caleb Williams did make the team.
Yeah,
well, Greg's roster would have just been Caleb 53 times, and but that didn't obviously happen either.
Yeah, I did do that where I had Caleb. That was my released 53-man roster projection, but I did slide Reddy Stewart in one of the spots of the so it was actually 52 Caleb's and one Reddy Stewart, and then of course the one guy I picked doesn't make the roster, so I'm hoping maybe he can find his way to the practice squad.
Yes, and I would expect that to happen if he's not claimed, which usually guys don't get claimed, but that is maybe one guy that could. So we will break all of that down here. But let's jump in with our biggest surprise. And Nick, we'll go to you here first. Biggest surprise on the 53-man roster.
Yeah, and people might freak out when I say this, but Daniel Hardy making the 53. And obviously watching his preseason, you're like, whoa, why is that a surprise? I just didn't think that with the addition of Taylor, also having Dominique Robinson, who I predict to make the roster, that there just wouldn't be a spot for Hardy. But I think that just goes to show the type of preseason he had, what he was able to do in training camp, that, the Bears obviously want to keep him. And obviously there's going to be some moves in the next coming days. So we'll see if this roster adjusts a little bit, but Daniel Hardy making the 53, good for him to show the progress he's made since he's been here with the Bears.
Yeah, I'm going to actually have to double up on that as the biggest surprise, just to keep 6 defensive ends, especially after making the trade that they made the other day. With Taylor adding to the team, I think that, I alluded to it over the weekend that I changed my mind since Thursday. I thought Dominique Robinson would make it, but that seemed to make Daniel Hardy the odd man out, but they end up keeping him here. I don't know that it'll stay that way. It seems like a lot of D ends to carry here, but they got to find that rotation and find that guy that's, when you got talented guys that you want to work out and sort through. Plus, when you bring a new guy in, granted, we've had this conversation before. We saw Khalil Mack do it. Now, Khalil Mack was an amazing specimen, but it is pass rusher. It's pretty easy to come in and play right away and be like, just go forward and go get set the edge and go get the quarterback. But there are going to be some learning curves there. So maybe that factored into it as well.
Yeah, so I'll move over to my biggest surprise. I'm happy for Daniel Hardy. He was somebody I was really pounding the table for after the last week. To me, if you're going to make plays at camp and in preseason games, you're going to execute and do what the coaches ask you to do. You should be rewarded for that. But it also speaks to the depth of this team. That's something we've talked about here these last couple preseason games. The depth is really starting to stand out. And I think when you look around the league and see some familiar cuts from other teams of players that have just recently played for the Bears, Robert Tonyan and N'Keal Harry. You had a couple more guys, from some other teams, Deontay Foreman, and there was another name that I'm missing too. that were just making the roster, or Byron Pringle, that just were on the Bears, where they were locks to make the team the last couple of years, and now they can't even be a backup or a third string for other teams around the league. So speaks to the Bears' depth. But my surprise of the day is certainly Greg Stroman getting cut. I thought that might mean that Reddy Stewart would wiggle his way into the roster. It doesn't, unfortunately. It looks like they only kept 10 defensive backs by my count here. I thought maybe Jalen Jones and Reddy Stewart might be battling for that last spot. I think Jalen Jones has been scrappy the last couple of years to stick on this roster. Somewhat of a dependable veteran, defensive back on this team the last few years. But I really have enjoyed what I've seen from Reddy Stewart here at training camp. That being said, Greg Stroman has also been a very solid backup on this team here the last couple of years during the season at camp, physical cornerback, and they completely let him go. He's going to have the opportunity to find his way on another roster, and I think he will. So that secondary unit is loaded, and everybody that's on that list certainly deserves a spot on this roster. And now we hope that Reddy Stewart can make it through waivers and make it to the Bears practice squad, because I just really think of a guy in terms of development that you really have something there with him. So hopefully he didn't shine too bright in that week 4 preseason game against the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, and again, more times than not, these guys do end up clearing waivers, because when you claim them, you have to put them on your 53. And, they got to know the defense, they got to know the scheme, they got to know everything, got to be actually ready to go. So most times that ends up not being the case, and they end up, come back. We will talk about guys that are, prime candidates come back to the practice squad. I just wanted to add on to that defensive end discussion. Jacob Martin got put on IR with the return designation. So not only are they keeping all these defensive ends, but that's another guy who they're technically not letting go, who could be back, in a month or so as well. So they're keeping themselves, Nick, with a lot of options here at defensive end, opposite of Montez Sweat.
Yeah, and I think that makes a lot of sense for Jacob too, because this is a guy that was with that first team defense, was starting there when DeMarcus Walker would kick inside, and that was Jacob Martin's job for a little bit until he got injured. So seeing that the injury wasn't significant enough that he would be on long-term IR and can come back, I think is a good sign for the Bears. And obviously that's going to change the roster when that time comes. But yeah, he was doing some good things. That Eric Washington talked, highly of Jacob Martin. So it's good to see that at least he will have a season to play here in Chicago when his time is ready.
There's a couple roster finagling spots we have to talk about. The one is I'll give Biggs credit for this because he reported it. The answer one of us certainly would have given for biggest surprise is Kari Blasingame getting cut, but Biggs did report that that's part of some roster finagling, that he will most likely be back tomorrow. He's a vested veteran, so he has to be released and can immediately sign with another team. But it sounds like they have an agreement, player and team, to just cut him for one day, come back tomorrow. And the reason for that is you can only have 2 players designated for return. Now, this is a new rule this year. Has to be done at the time the 53-man roster is set. Can't be done like a day before. But you can designate 2 guys to return right away, and that is Larry Borum and Jacob Martin. But they had this Patrick Scales issue. Scales has been out since the Hall of Fame game, so they actually have 3 guys they needed to designate for return. So by doing this, they can make that Scales IR move tomorrow and bring Blasingame back. That'll be set. However, the follow-up question, the obvious follow-up to that is, who the hell's the long snapper then? Because Cameron Lyons was waived today. Now, this was something I thought would actually happen, believe it or not. Long snapper is an interesting position because Cameron Lyons been with these guys for months now. He took all the snaps after Scales got hurt. There is a chemistry thing there that does matter. No one's claiming a long snapper off of waivers, most likely. I guess it's possible, if he looks elite and someone's got a big problem and they're like, oh, let's add this guy and he's definitely going to be our week 1 guy. That would probably be the scenario that it would happen. So maybe it is possible, but most likely Cameron Lyons will either be signed to the practice squad by tomorrow, and you can get him back out there and practice and still be your long snapper between now and the actual game when he can then be elevated. Or they go out and sign another veteran that might be out there. So that's why I thought Cameron Lyons would definitely be waived here, because you can always go out and sign somebody last minute, or just at that position specifically, or you can just elevate him from the practice squad as you get to the actual game. And that's an option too. So that's enough long snapper talk there. But it is an interesting scenario that hasn't really come up before, with just trying to have to figure out how to carry a long snapper on this 53.
Well, and so it's reported that Scales won't return until end of October, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that what Big said in that report? So that, if that's true, I mean, that's a big hit. You know, it's an underestimate. I don't think people will appreciate it, but you should, in the city that Patrick Manley once owned here in Chicago. Like, you should appreciate long snappers and their contribution to the 53-man roster. So that's definitely something interesting. And him not being at camp the last few weeks was certainly of note. I know, sitting with Gary in the stands, it was like every day is like, where's Patrick Scales? And now we got our answer. He's going to be out a while. So you're saying for the players that are injured and designated to return, those names were the three:
Larry Borum,
and
Jacob
Martin. So what is the word with Ryan Bates then, who's also been out with injury, and he makes the roster, but they haven't given any clarification on when he's going to return?
No, my understanding on that though is he's not necessarily guaranteed to be back for the Titans game, but I didn't get any sense that might be like a month-long thing into the season, which is because, remember, if you go on IR, you're going to miss 4 games.
Right.
So he might just be, any other player you have on your roster during the season that ends up on the injury report and perhaps isn't active on game day because he's hurt. Remember, that happens every week throughout the season. You're going to have injured guys on your 53. That's basically where Ryan Bates is right now.
Now you have 8 spots for the whole season where you can IR a guy with a designation in return, but only 2 that you can do right now. So let's say it is more serious than it is. So that means they'd have to wait till week 1 is over to make Ryan Bates an IR designation to return.
No. Okay, this is good. We need to explain this because it has gotten complicated. Okay. So today you can designate 2 guys to return with that tag to keep them on your, to make that move on the same day as the 53. So they don't take up 2 spots on your 53 today, like they used to have to do. And then you would make the IR move tomorrow. Going forward, you don't have to designate to return anybody.
Okay.
You can just put guys on IR. You're allowed to bring 8 back. Okay. And technically these 2 guys that went on today don't have to ever come back. But so you still have 8 other options. But if one of these 2 players that got put on IR today does come back, that does count against your 8. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Cleared it up.
So for instance, Scales, when he goes on IR tomorrow, it won't have a designation to return to it. But in a month or so from now, when they elect to bring him back, that's when it'll count as one of those IR to return guys. Yeah, okay. I get it. This rule seems to change every single year. I think it's good for the game. You're just trying to keep, there's no point in, you used to sometimes have to guys would be out for the year when they really only had to be out for a month. But because of the roster problems, you sometimes had to do it to guys that maybe weren't starters. And that's just, nobody wants that. Nobody needs that. So I do appreciate that they're making these efforts, but it does get confusing for the fans.
Yeah, no doubt. Zach Pickens is another guy to maybe look at around here. He's also dealing with an injury. He obviously made the roster like Bates, but we have to see what his status is going to be moving forward, especially towards that week 1 game against Tennessee.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right. We're going to break down the offense and defense, what this roster looks like. But first, hey, if you're thinking about coming to that first game, go to check out Game Time. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. go check out Game Time. You can look at, there's so many features on this app. You got the super deals. You can customize your spot. I always like when first of all, you can always see your seat when you're looking at the app, pick on a seat. You can see exactly what you're looking at, which is great. They have lowest price guarantee. Their flash deals are always outstanding. I always like to swipe that little yellow button that's on there and it'll show you the flash deals. Every buy comes with event cancellation protection, even job loss protection. Game Time really makes it easy to get a good deal and have some insurance behind it as well. The Game Time Picks is a curation that makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, and theater. All in pricing. You can toggle that feature on. The full total up front, no surprise fees at your checkout. And they always come with the lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code CHGO for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code CHGO for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it?
Game time. Who?
Oh, yeah.
How'd we do? How'd we do?
We weren't in sync like the Olympic, divers there, but we at least remembered. And that's a start. We also remember, too, that it's getting easier for businesses to switch to electric vehicles. That's something we can all get behind for the health of the planet and for the well-being for all of us who share it, Greg.
That's right. The electric grid is evolving to meet your cleaner energy needs as we all move with confidence towards an electric tomorrow. Whether you have one delivery van or a whole fleet of shipping trucks, ComEd can guide you to help make the changes that make sense.
So what should business owners do?
They should go to ComEd.com/clean to learn more about the resources, fleet rebates, and infrastructure incentives available to help businesses go electric. If you own a business, don't wait. Start making your plan today to switch to electric vehicles. Good for business, good for the planet, good for all of us. Go to ComEd.com/clean.
Did you say ComEd.com/clean?
As one Mark Harmon would say in the stands at the U.S. Open, you bet your sweet bippy I did go now and see how going electric connects us to a better way of doing business and a better future for generations to come. Hit up ComEd.
Boom.
Speaking of Carm, I called him this morning and he was at a timeshare presentation. So I don't know what the hell he's doing. He's just
Carm.
He's just an interesting Carm. I don't know what to make of it. All right. By the way, couple things to promote. Hard Knocks tonight. We will be watching it. I don't care how much caffeine I need to stay awake. I will be watching it.
Show number 3.
I will be right. Yeah. This is show number 3, even though show number 1 of 3 today will actually be coming out tomorrow because Cole Kmet and I already recorded the 85 with Cole Kmet earlier today. Your guest is Roma Dunze.
Let's go. Let's go.
So Roma Dunze will be on tomorrow's episode of the 85 with Cole Kmet. That will premiere tomorrow morning. Go over there, hit subscribe. Don't X out of this, but when you get a chance, open up a separate browser or something, whatever you're doing. Make sure you're subscribed to the 85 with Cole Kmet because that is a separate YouTube channel. It's a separate podcast feed wherever you listen to your podcast. And we'll have a fun conversation with Roma Dunze. And I may have accidentally insulted wide receiver number 2 on the team. You know how I did that to DJ Moore?
How many wide receivers are you going to do this to?
I don't know. You have to watch to find out. I'm just a big idiot, apparently.
Is he wide receiver 2 or is
Well, I was saying he's the second wide receiver on the team that I've managed to slight somehow. Even though
you just got to watch.
You got to watch. The funny part is I was actually really trying hard to compliment him, and I accidentally insulted him. So
man.
I might not be on the show going forward. I might be getting kicked off.
Well, you might as well just go full Monty then, and then when Keenan Allen eventually comes on, you can address the questions of his weight.
Yeah.
Well, that I will defend to a crazy level because I don't believe it at all. All right. So that's coming up tomorrow, the 85. And of course, we will have Hard Knocks recap show tonight, right at 9:00. And that'll be right here on the CHGO Bears podcast. That is a CHGO Bears After Dark show. Corey Wooten will be with us once again tonight for that, along with the three of us. Looking forward to it. So we got plenty of content and no sleep. And that's how we roll here. And that's fine. And Braggs is doing shows right now, even though he just had knee surgery.
You're goddamn right. That's what we do here.
Yeah.
You'd have to kill me to keep me off this show and say stupid things into this microphone.
Doesn't surprise us.
That's actually accurate.
Yeah, very accurate. Very
completely accurate.
100%.
All right. All right, let's start with the offense. We can kind of go through this position by position to kind of recap who made it, who didn't, who could possibly be practice squad candidate, who might not be. So let's discuss the quarterback room. And no surprises here. Caleb Williams, Tyson Bagent are you two quarterbacks on the 53-man roster. Brett Rippon was released and Austin Reed was waived. I would expect one of the two to end up back on the practice squad. I think the question becomes here, probably Brett Rippon, but does another team, Brett Rippon's an unrestricted free agent now. He can go sign anywhere.
Right.
Where Reed has to go through waivers. Is there another team out there that saw what Brett Rippon did, especially in that Hall of Fame game, which is almost a month ago now, and say, hey, we don't have a lot of depth. Do we go out and sign him? It's possible. I feel like it's more likely than not that Rippon ends up on the practice squad, but that's just where I'm at. How about you guys?
I'm a big proponent of having young guys on that practice squad. If you can develop another guy like Austin Reed and, obviously having a young guy in Tyson Bagent, a young guy in Caleb Williams. Right. But I do feel like out of the two, like, what are the Bears going to do? I do feel like it is going to be Rippon. But again, we've always talked about it. Like, you should have those quarterbacks developing. Austin Reed could be a nice developmental project that you've obviously had throughout the preseason here. He's done some good things. Obviously has a really good relationship with his teammates. We've all seen that in Hard Knocks, but I do feel like it will be Rippon when it's all said and done.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not dialed into the backup quarterback situations for all 31 other teams in the NFL. I know the Bills have been fighting to get a quarterback. I mean, the Packers just brought in Malik Willis. So, I'm seeing some of the movement there, but I'd be lying if I said I knew every single backup quarterback situation in the league. That being said, I'm just going to go off of what I would personally do, and I'm rolling with what you started with, Nick, and I'm going to go with Austin Reed on the practice squad. You already have Tyson Bagent in there to develop, and so to me, keeping those two, developing Reed behind them, taking your time with him. He has a lot of the intangibles that I felt like Tyson Bagent had when he first came in. And so you saw how they were able to develop Tyson Bagent. Rippon's been around the block a few times here. I would personally let Rippon walk and keep Austin Reed.
Remember, Brett Rippon's only 28, and it's not like this is a guy that's super old, and he does have the familiarity with the system. Was with Shane Waldron last year for a little bit in Seattle. So we'll see. That'll be an interesting move. I mean, I would almost guarantee though that a third quarterback will.
Well, and how much longer would you think Tyson Bagent will stay a Bear? Like, is that a silly question? Like, at some point, do the Bears use him as trade bait? Or give him an opportunity to go somewhere else. I mean, he's a pretty valuable asset the Bears have right now. At least it appears that way, the way he's played.
Yeah. I kind of feel like that's a question for another day. But I think it would take a lot for you to trade him because of how important backup quarterbacks are in this league. Yeah. And I do think there's a significant drop off after him on this roster. You have him under contract for 2 more years, and then you have a restricted free agent situation after that too. So I'd be surprised if he's not here for this season and next season, but and then maybe at that point to entertain a deal because I do think if he continues to look like this, at some point you probably want to do right by him as well and give him his opportunity to start somewhere.
Well, especially
that time's not now though when Caleb's a rookie.
No, but especially though, if he, God forbid, has to play 4 games like he did last year and plays even better than he did last year with the talent that this team has around him and a second year under his belt, then would that be enough for a team to see like, hey, we want this guy as our starting quarterback?
Could be. I mean, there's a lot of weapons, and if he shows out, like, yeah, but what you said, Braggs, like, he's a valuable asset for this team right now. So there is obviously, it's worth keeping a guy like that on the roster.
All right, let's talk about the running backs. They end up, I don't know, do we say keeping 4.5, which tomorrow will be 5 because there's 2 halves. There's 4 and 2 half. I mean, it's a interesting running back room. Obviously, you have DeAndre Swift, Khalil Herbert, Roschon Johnson. That's personally how I would have the depth chart between the 3 running, true running backs who'll be running with the football. Then Travis Homer, who's more of your special teamer, who does make the team. I did think there was maybe a slight question mark there. So, but they do keep all, those 4 guys. Kari Blasingame, according to Brad Biggs, will be back tomorrow. So they will keep the fullback, which I thought I was expecting them to do that. They seem to like Kari Blasingame, despite, Waldron sort of being known for not using fullbacks as much. They seem to like him. And then let's not forget about Velus Jones Jr., who does make the team. Now he's listed in the official release as a wide receiver, but I feel like at this point he's at least half and half, if not 60% a running back now. Yeah, and when I was like, when obviously we saw the 53, I'm like, oh wait, 4 running back. Oh, they do still have Velus as that wide receiver. With Travis Homer, like, he did play 57% of the special team snaps last season, but I still, like, when I was predicting, I thought he would be the odd man out. So, obviously he also has history with Chad Morton going back to Seattle. So there's that there. And then obviously the special team contributions, but Kari Blasingame, like, Shane Waldron never used a tight end in the 3 years he was in Washington, but you can still use him. Obviously, like, keeping Blasingame on this roster too, I think indicates that when he is on the field, this team's still going to be one that's going to want to run the football. And Kari's obviously a guy that can help open up some lanes there. Yeah, 100%. Let's go on to wide receiver then. So we got our answer with who is making it and who is not. Although it was kind of a surprise move because Dante Pettis ended up going on IR and was not designated to return. So he's out for the year. That was in a row. Yeah, 2 years in a row. That one surprised me. So we get our answer there between Pettis, Carter, and Velus. Velus makes it. DeAndre Carter makes it. And then, of course, you knew DJ Moore, Tyler Scott, Keenan Allen, Roma Dunze were all safe.
Yeah, I think the big thing was like who's going to actually be that punt returner. And, Carter, even though he had that muff in the Kansas City game, obviously ends up getting the job. But, yeah, there wasn't too much of question marks going into this group, considering who the top guys were at, and they just had to fill at the bottom.
Yeah, it's interesting quickly because I know we're going to take a break here, but to me, I thought DeAndre Carter did a little more than people realize at the wide receiver spot at camp. He was involved in a lot of first team reps and made some plays at times. So because they're not thin at wide receiver, they're like front heavy. They've got it, obviously probably the most talented 3, but they're only keeping 6, and one of them's a running back, and the other one is more of a punt returner. But I do think DeAndre Carter will get involved, in the passing game to a certain extent. So yeah, it's just interesting to see that number is 6 wide receivers and really 5 if you take Velus Jones out of there, which you basically do. So the Travis Homer thing, because that's like the trickle down effect, is the biggest surprise to me. You keep Velus as a receiver, but really he's a running back. So to me, how many reps is Travis Homer really going to get? But it goes to show you, if you can play special teams, it's your best chance to make a roster when you're fighting for those back 5 spots.
All right. Well, this is a good time on the backside of this to talk about that returner situation because it does involve these guys we are talking about now. But first, Shop summertime savings going on now at Ray Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram and save on the perfect new vehicle for you. This August, score new lower prices across their huge inventory during the Make This the Summer event. For a limited time, get 0% financing for 36 months on most of their new 2024 Jeep models, or you can shop over 125 vehicles priced under $20,000. Let the amazing team at Ray's CDJR help you during each step of your car shopping journey with Ray's Price Promise. The numbers you're hearing now are the same prices you can expect to shop in-store and online. That's because Ray's Price Promise means no price changing, no add-ons, and no hidden fees. Since they prioritize affordability for their customers, hurry into Ray's CDJR today. Shop one of Chicago area's largest inventories, then drive home with more money in your pocket than you'd expect. So if you're in the market for a new vehicle, you have to check out the team at Ray Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram, because they're the only team we recommend here at CHGO. Visit them today on Route 12 in Fox Lake. For more information, visit Ray CDJR in Fox Lake or raycdjr.com. Serving the community since 1963.
That's right. And we've got over 2,300 live viewers watching right now. And I encourage all of you guys to make sure you're hitting that like button while you're hanging out. We appreciate you tuning into CHGO Bears and subscribing here to the YouTube channel. And also, hey, best time as ever to become a diehard right now here at CHGO Sports. A lot of great things popping off. New shirt just dropped here yesterday. The Claws Up shirt just dropped. We're going to have some more stuff coming out as the season gets closer. So we're excited for all the different announcements. So make sure you stay tuned for that. But when you become a diehard, you get a free shirt right out the gate. So you can get this shirt for free when you become a diehard. You can get exclusive content to your doorstep and email only. Adam Hoge's newsletter that he puts out weekly, different written content, discounts on our tailgates that are coming up. We have tailgates for every single home game. A lot of people ask me, hey, I'm coming into town for this game or that game. You can get a discount on every single tailgate for every single home game with us at CHGO Bears. If you go to allchgo.com/events, you can see the details on that. And then, of course, hit up truefantravel.com. We're going to London. That's already in the books. If you're coming over there, make sure you sign up for some of the extra events that we're going to be doing. But we're also heading to Arizona, and you can reserve your spot today to come with us to Arizona. Corey Wooten's going to be with us. The whole crew is going to be there. We're going to be doing a lot of fun stuff. Pre-game, tailgate, tickets to the game, hotel accommodations, flights, you can get set up with flights, trips to and from the stadium to your hotel, the whole 9 yards. They get you set up at truefantravel.com. So make sure you're sticking with us here at CHGO Bears.
All right. We will hear from Cole Kmet shortly, by the way, because we have Cole's game recap from last week, sponsored by Howard Ankin. So just a little teaser there. We'll save that here just for a little bit because we do want to continue the conversation on the offensive side of the ball, really kind of bring it over to the return game. Now, a lot of people watching, appreciate it. Hit that subscribe button. Please hit that like button. We should get those likes way higher than they are. It's free. It takes zero effort. Hit that like button. It helps us grow the audience even more. So please do that. So we were just talking about the wide receivers. The return situation, I would assume if the Bears are playing a game tonight, DeAndre Carter would be the punt returner and Velus Jones would be the primary kick returner with probably Khalil Herbert back there with him, I would guess. I do wonder if this is an area where the Bears keep an eye out for possible talent. It's possibly somebody that ends up getting waived. Sometimes these returners don't provide a lot of value elsewhere, on offense. And so that's why they become available. And so I don't know that DeAndre Carter is set in stone as the punt returner. That being said, we talked about this during training camp. I thought it meant a lot when you heard Chris Beatty, the wide receivers coach, who had Carter in LA with the Chargers, rave about his ability to understand every wide receiver position in the offense and be dependable, because that matters. If you have a guy that can come off the bench in the middle of the game, play the X, play the Z, play the F, like whatever it is, get out there. That's value. And so that's why I always felt like he had a leg up. and why the punt return job was definitely going to be his as long as he sees it. I just don't know that he fully sees that job because it still feels like it's an issue. And so that's why I still think it's a spot to watch. But, if I had to bet on it, I would think that Carter ends up taking the first punt return week 1 against the Titans.
Yeah.
And there's some names in the chat. Dwayne Eskridge, who was with Seattle, who, was with Shane Waldron, but he actually didn't punt return. I was looking at some of his set. He was a kick returner. So that doesn't, quite fit what the Bears would obviously be looking for. Kadarius Toney is another guy that maybe fits that bill. I saw Jakeem Grant's name in the chat, who was once a former Bear. So I guess there are some guys, but I agree with you, Adam. Week 1, probably DeAndre Carter.
As long as it isn't Rome Odunze. And I don't know what you guys talked about on the 85, and I'll be tuned into that. But I know what I would have told him, and that's you are not returning punts, Rome Odunze. You're going to catch touchdowns, then you're going to be on the sidelines arguing with Caleb Williams on who's keeping what ball. But you are not returning punts, as God is my witness.
I only give to worry about it, Greg.
I shouldn't because he didn't return any in the preseason games. So it just made absolutely no sense to me. I will never get over this whole thing. And I keep seeing every time I see a fan bring it up in the chat, I lose my mind a little bit. And honestly, it's about the Bears. They had him getting reps as a returner at camp, then don't give him 1 rep in a preseason game.
They've been doing that with DJ Moore for 2 years. They did that for Eddie Jackson for literally every year he was on the team. Just settle down.
I will not settle down.
I'll do the opposite of settle down.
Exactly. Thank you, Nick.
All right, let's talk about the tight ends. They end up keeping 3. I do expect this to be 4 when you factor in the practice squad. I think, whether it's Brendan Bates or probably Steven Carlson who's been here. I think Carlson probably ends up back on the practice squad. And then, if you ever need to bring him up because of injury, you can.
Yeah, given how much Shane Waldron likes to use those, multiple tight end sets, I thought maybe if they had 4, I could see a world where that happens. But yeah, both those guys you mentioned, practice squad guys, they have it written all over it.
And then 10. Sorry, you got a tight end thought?
No, my question was going to be how many people make the practice squad? Because I know the number's grown here.
16, and 6 of them can have unlimited NFL service time. So, because there's always like kind of limits to who can actually be there, but 6 of your 16 practice squad spots can have. It doesn't matter how long you've been in the league. So that used to be. I mean, when I started covering it, it was 10 practice squad guys, and you basically, I think, if you were above 3 years of NFL experience, you weren't even allowed to be on the practice squad. The point of that was to, keep veterans on the 53 and not get, shelved down in the practice squad. But then what ended up happening was they just be kind of shut out of a job altogether. So it's kind of like the kickoff kick return thing where there's like a give and take on both sides as you're trying to figure out what the best incentive is to keep the ball in play. Like it's the same sort of thing where it's like, well, we want our guys to stay on the 53, but we want them to still have some job if they can't. But then if we make it too easy to get on the practice squad, then too many veterans end up on the practice squad. So it's like this total give and take thing, and it's kind of tricky to figure out. And that's exactly what happened, by the way, with that emergency quarterback rule that we were talking about, where the NFLPA nixed it because it was like, what incentive does any team have to keep more than 2 quarterbacks? If you can just basically shelve them on the practice squad, pay them less, and then they can be brought up on game day every single week.
And that's why I asked the question, because when they changed that, the NFLPA went against that rule. I didn't know if that had an effect on the practice squad number. So, this shit changes every year. So forgive me.
No, I'm living this every year and still have to look up some of the rules. All right. Let's talk offensive line. So 10 offensive linemen make it.
Yep.
Plus Larry Borum goes to IR. You have one of these spots is Karan Amagaji.
These are where the biggest, some of the biggest. We could have had this in our biggest surprise segment. Is the offensive line names in here for sure?
Yeah, 100%. So you get Karan taking up one of the spots. You have Ryan Bates, whose injury I don't get the sense is big enough that they need to put him on IR. So I don't know if he's going to play week 1, and that creates a reality that you have to keep another center because if Bates isn't available, you need to have a backup center against the Titans. And I think that's where Doug Kramer comes in. Bill Murray, I'm not surprised he made it. I know they like Bill Murray. He was in there early on in camp getting reps with the ones when Nate Davis was out. And when Tevin Jenkins briefly went out one time early on in camp, Bill Murray slid in there at left guard. So I just wasn't sure if they would keep Jake Curran, who's a veteran, has been with Shane Waldron before in Seattle, has starting experience. Instead, they go young and they keep Bill Murray instead. Matt Pryor with his versatility. So you got Bill Murray who can play center, guard, and you have Matt Pryor who can play guard and tackle pretty much all 4 of those spots that aren't center, and that gives you the versatility. So it's an interesting situation because they keep 10 offensive linemen, Nick, but really only 8 of them are probably available to you in week 1 anyway. And so you got some versatility there to work with, if you need backups to come in that game.
Yeah, and like Jake Karan was a guy that I initially had on the 53 because I just didn't know where Karan Amagaji was going to be in terms of like his development. Obviously, he's still getting acclimated to, just being in pads with the team right now. And so you have Matt Pryor as going to be that primary, guy that would go in for either one of the tackles. And he's been primarily playing it at guard right now for the Bears. So that's why I was thinking, like, when I was looking at the, who's going to make it, like Karan was a guy or Jake Karan was going to be a guy that I thought would make it. But yeah, those 2 young guys in Bill Murray, Doug Kramer, good for them for making, again, this initial 53. We'll see how that all changes though when, some of these moves will end up happening later.
Yeah, I don't have too much to add other than, Matt Pryor, when he was the starting right guard, when you came in for, what was that, the Bills game? He looked really good in that starting role. And I think that started to open my eyes to maybe this offensive line has a little more depth than I give it credit for. Cause when the offensive line was getting its ass whooped for the first couple weeks of training camp and everything looked out of sorts, I was certainly worried about that. And it's certainly something that I think will be at the front of our concerns as fans, but I think they do have a little more depth than we give them credit for, especially if Karan Amagaji can come back sooner rather than later. And then we're all just kind of hoping and praying that, Hoge's offensive MVP at training camp, Tevin Jenkins, can stay healthy. Because if he can, then I just think that opens everything up for the rest of this offensive line. He's kind of he's the key to this whole thing. And if he can stay healthy, I think this offensive line could actually end up being a really good unit. Because when Tevin was out for the first 4 weeks last year, watch the offensive line from the first 4 weeks from when Tevin comes in after that, and look at the pockets they were creating for Justin Fields and Tyson Bagent last year. It's night and day. So, I'm rooting for Tevin because I think he's the key to all this.
Karan's situation is interesting because I know I got some tweets about this. Was like, will he go on IR to start the season? It's like, well, no, because he needs to practice. He can practice now. You go on IR, you can't practice until your practice window opens. So I think right now it's, when you think about it that way, that's how you end up with 10 offensive linemen. You got versatile guys. And then, I don't know if anybody springs available or if you need to, add anyone. I know Gary Ross is throwing some names out there in the comments. That'll be, something that maybe we watch over the next 24 hours. But I had to say, I do kind of like this group. And I like Matt Pryor a lot and his ability to play guard and tackle and his experience. And he's just a huge guy.
He's a monster.
So, he really is. Yeah. All right. Let's do this before we get to the defensive side of the ball. Let's get to our game recap presented by Inc. and Laws. Cole Kmet talking about some of the things we saw last week in Kansas City, sort of breaking it down, and a little bit of a teaser too on some things you'll hear on the 85 with Cole Kmet, which will drop tomorrow. This is the game recap presented by Ankin Law. Injury law made personal. They're here to help. Visit ankinlaw.com to learn more. All right, break it down for us, Cole. What did you see last week in Kansas City?
Yeah, well, a lot of good stuff from guys trying to prove a point out there. So we saw Bayless more at running back. Man, is he explosive when he gets on the edge like that. So you saw some of those returner skills in the open field and his ability to cut. So I think as he continues to learn the position, you've just seen him become more and more comfortable. And those explosive plays are a lot of fun to watch. And those are just some things you can't teach. And then Reddy out there with 2 picks, one pick six. That was awesome to see. So those are always cool moments when you see guys kind of ball out like that. And then my guy AR, Austin Reed with his first touchdown pass in the NFL. So that was also awesome to see. So a lot of good stuff from a lot of guys, and a good beatdown that Thursday night to go up on Kansas City there.
Yeah, Austin Reed setting a good precedent for the 85.
Yeah.
Come on the show,
score a touchdown.
Yeah, I like that. We'll see if we can keep that going. And with Reddy, I'm curious. I don't know that he would have returned the first one 100 yards or whatever it was. Yeah. But were you guys giving him some trouble on the sideline for not keeping his feet? Because it seemed like he could have gone farther.
I sure as heck wasn't, just because I'm sure he was just so excited to get the pick. You know what I mean? So I don't want to like dog on him in that moment or anything. But I'm sure some of the DBs were. And then for him on that second one to get it and take it to the house was really cool. So it's always cool to see those guys have those type of performances in the last preseason game, kind of the last dress rehearsal there, and last time he kind of put some stuff on tape. So cool to see those guys do their thing and ball out, and wishing them nothing but the best.
Yeah, good redemption to go get another pick and then take that one back.
Right.
How impressive is it at Velus Jones with like just a few weeks of practice? He's doing more than just taking a handoff and running. Like he seems to actually be hitting the right holes and reading what's in front of him.
For sure. No, he definitely has some more learning to do about the position as a whole, but he's got a natural knack for it, I think. And I think I saw that in years prior when we put him in the backfield to do some things, and we've done that before. But when he gets out on that edge, man, he's dangerous, and those returner skills really take over, and his physicality, he'll lower your shoulder on you too. So, and obviously the speed element is just so dynamic and really so rare. So it's cool to see him kind of flourish in this new role as a running back and him kind of figure out along the way. But for him really only playing the position full time for a couple of weeks now, pretty impressive to see what he's been able to do. And, I credit to him to kind of just taking it by the horns and doing what he has to do to make a spot and make an impact on the team.
All right. Well, that is the end of the preseason, and at least your final preseason game recap presented by Ankin Law. Make sure you go subscribe to the 85 with Cole Kmet, separate YouTube channel. Let's get those subscriptions up. Plenty more to come throughout the regular season. Next week is finally week 1. I'm going to give one more tease, guys, too, because Cole's been asking me a fun question towards the end of all of these shows. I think Nick, especially, you're going to like this one this week. Little tease. Has to do with athletic ability. Yeah.
Okay.
So, Greg, you don't have to worry about it. But Nick.
Yeah.
He doesn't got knees. No.
Yeah, because I don't have knees. Did anybody mention to Cole that he has yet to call or text me to see how I'm doing? Did anybody mention this to him? Not happy with him right now.
Sorry, Greg.
It's not okay. And we still haven't discussed the fact that he dropped a pass in week 2 of the preseason.
Does it matter?
It all right there. Yeah. Week 2.
Maybe that's why he hasn't texted you, because you haven't forgiven him for a drop in the preseason game.
Okay.
It's like his first drop in 3 years. And you won't shut up.
Yeah. Hey, Greg keeps people accountable. You know that.
That's a good point.
Yes.
Yep. It's a good point. All right, Carrie Huss dropping another $100 super chat. Someone is excited about the season. Keep it going. Carrie says, here's to the Bears being 7-0 when I meet the CHGO crew and Woot in Arizona for my first Bears game. Super excited and bear down. Boy, that just makes it seem like it's 2006 all over again, Greg.
Mhm.
Man, that's true.
Wow.
That's true. Were they 7-0 for that game, or were they 6-0? Shit, I'm gonna go look this up
You'd
right
have
now.
to look that up.
Yeah, I'll look this up. You guys just do the show.
Okay. Zero Demon, $5. Hogue, how cold is your house that you're wearing a hoodie today? Technically Nick is too, although his is lighter.
They were 5-0.
Mine's very understandable. I know people can relate to this, but my office is in my basement, and when it's this hot outside, the air is just running all day, and it just ends up being cold down here. So but I'll be honest though, the shirt I'm wearing under here is the same one I was wearing earlier when we were recording Cole Kmet. So I was trying to mix it up a little bit so that I wasn't wearing the same shirt 2 days
Makes
in a row.
sense. Yeah.
Gotta think ahead. We're behind. Back to the Future. Whatever we're doing here. Not really sure where Greg went either, but
it's going back in time when the Bears were in 2006 and wants to bring those vibes back here.
Back when he had knees. Okay. All right, let's talk about the defense here, Nick, and we'll start with the defensive linemen. I thought they might keep 11. They end up keeping 10. So you got Andrew Billings, Austin Booker, Jervon Dexter, Daniel Hardy, which we talked about off the start of the show, Zach Pickens, who's still banged up, Dom Robb makes it, Montez Sweat, Darrell Taylor, who they just traded for, DeMarcus Walker, and Chris Williams, who they just traded for. But yeah, we kind of all led with this being one of our surprises that after adding Darrell Taylor and Chris Williams, you still had Dominique Robinson and Daniel Hardy make the team.
I'm not seeing Micah Parsons' name there though, Hogue. And I was promised last night by Caleb Williams per his retweets that Micah Parsons was going to be on this roster today.
You need to be banned from that website for your own good.
No.
Yeah. I mean, it wouldn't be for our good. We probably suffer as a company, but I don't know if we'd miss them, but we'd probably suffer a little bit as a company. But it would be good for you.
Just got to stay off social media sometimes and take a break every once in a while.
Tell Caleb that.
No, that's
he's the one
retweeting
things about Micah Parsons last night. So, yes.
He pulled a Braggs.
He pulled a Braggs.
He pulled it, yeah. Everyone makes mistakes.
Let's get him a Meatball Island shirt. So, yeah, I'm really happy for Daniel Hardy. We talked about that earlier. Yeah. Earned it. You know, obviously this whole Dominique Robinson situation is interesting because when I talk about Daniel Hardy earning it at practice or in the games, from my eyes, from my untrained eye from the stands or on my couch, I haven't seen him flash enough the last 2 years to earn that roster spot. So if you're going to keep him, keep 10 defensive linemen and not have a guy like a developmental guy like Reddy Stewart, you know, who very likely could still make the practice squad. But regardless, I'm just looking at guys that have potential. And Dominique Robinson, it's like it's now or never. So, you know, obviously the team sees something in him that a lot of fans don't. You got a lot of different talent around you. Now they've added a couple different defensive linemen to add to that depth. But it's time to do something here, man. You know, but I'm still happy that it didn't come at the mercy of Daniel Hardy not making the team. So at the very least, they did right by Daniel, but they're giving Dominique another shot.
Let me say this real quick on Dominique Robinson, because obviously he's going to be a part of these waves that come in for the defensive linemen, these rotations. You still need guys that can play the run too. And obviously you want guys that are going to rush the quarterback and do what Daniel Hardy did in the preseason. But with Dominique Robinson's now added 15 pounds to his size, he's more equipped to set edges, to be a guy that can be an asset in stopping the run. And like, again, he's still kind of adjusting to this position and adding this weight too. So I think we're going to see a little bit more out of Dominique Robinson this season. And when he comes in for those rotations, he'll be more suitable to be an asset in the run game, which is still very important in today's NFL. And I think we'll just see a little bit more than what we've seen even in the preseason. So, but I was surprised too to see Dominique Robinson and also Daniel Hardy. And then you still have Jacob Martin on IR willing to come back. So again, they kept a lot of defensive ends on this team right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was, if anything, that's the one I was kind of surprised that one of the two guys that had the IR to return designation was Jacob Martin, because it's just like even when he comes back, it's like how does he fit in all of this?
So is this an extended competition between Daniel Hardy and Dominique Robinson over the first 4 weeks? May the best man keep his spot.
I mean, the thing is that I feel like their strengths are different. Nick was just talking about it. Like I feel like Hardy was more impressive on the pass rush, and Dominic Robinson was better against the run. And we've already heard that Darrell Taylor's weakness is against the run. So I think it's just going to be a rotational thing, and in trying your best to put these guys in the right spots and run downs and versus pass downs. And then you're going to see offenses adjust and try to, exploit the weaknesses when they can. I don't hate, again, I keep having to remind people this. You can make a trade at the trade deadline. Like we saw this happen last year, and you got young guys, you got Austin Booker. Let's not forget about Austin Booker. I mean, ideally, Austin Booker is a starter, clear-cut starter opposite Montez Sweat next year when we're doing this show.
Mm-hmm.
And he might surprise this year, despite the fact that I think we all agree he needs to put on a little bit more muscle. No one seems to be able to stop him in the preseason. Way different when you're going up against a starting left tackle in the NFL, but we'll see. He might continue to surprise us and might answer that question for us anyway. Let's continue to move through this thing. Linebackers, I don't think we have to spend a ton of time on. There was maybe one little controversy here, but we knew Tremaine Edmonds, TJ Edwards, Jack Sanborn, Amen Agbangbamiga, who they signed in the offseason, really to be a special teamer, depth type of guy. To me, this really came down to Noah Sewell versus Micah Baskerville with the last spot. I went with Micah on my 53 over Noah Sewell just because, kind of based on the result, to Greg's point, what the results, what we're seeing. However, I do think they like Noah a lot on special teams, and Micah, I would assume, gets to the practice squad here as well.
Yeah, and Noah was like injured for most of training camp. We didn't get to see him out there for a majority of it. And my 53, I had them both being on there, especially with the new kickoff rules, having those types of body types on the kickoffs. Like I thought that would make sense. But yeah, Micah Baskerville, I think, has done enough to at least earn himself a spot on the practice squad.
And then your DBs, boy, it's a deep group.
Yep.
And I think I was making the point the other night. I thought 14 guys, and this might be where you lose some dudes to other teams because, the guys that got cut, and maybe it is a Reddy Stewart. That'll result in Greg crying, but the guys that did make it: Josh Blackwell, Jaquan Brisker, Kevin Byard, Kyler Gordon, Elijah Hicks, Jalen Johnson, Jalen Jones, Jonathan Owens, Terrell Smith, and Tyreek Stevenson. So sort of a mixture of some good depth at safety, good depth, I think, both inside and outside. I know they're really happy with the way that Josh Blackwell has come on, not only as he emerged right away as a good special teamer, he's become a pretty damn good backup nickel too. And so I think that it was a big reason why Greg Stroman, who still technically could come back on the practice squad, by the way, why Blackwell got that nod there. And then Jalen Jones gives you a little bit more depth on the outside corner spots, and also a good special teamer in there as well. So I don't really know surprises here for me with the DBs.
Yeah, no, it's just a deep group, and that's why a guy like Greg Stroman obviously didn't make the 53. And even in that last preseason game, we saw Josh Blackwell. He was actually playing outside while Reddy Stewart was the nickel corner. So just kind of providing some more versatility in his game, what he can provide for this team. But it's just a deep group, and unfortunately for Greg Stroman Jr., like he's the guy, the odd man out on this time.
And then finally, the specialists, which we discussed a little bit earlier. Interesting long snapper conversation, but Cairo Santos, Patrick Scales, and Torrey Taylor make the initial 53. Cameron Lyons was waived, and now we'll have to wait and see what happens because we pretty much know at this point that Patrick Scales is going to go on IR tomorrow, and Kari Blasingame is going to take his spot. So when does the long snapper move get made? I explained earlier, you could potentially put Cameron Lyons on your practice squad and then just elevate him in a week for the game. That is one option you have. There's a limited amount of elevations you can do. Honestly, I need to go back and reread all of those rules to see how much that's changed too this year. A lot of different rules with the practice squad stuff. And maybe they'll have to sign them to the 53 next week, or if they sign somebody else, you can always bring in another long snapper after tryouts, or someone might come available today. We'll have to wait and see on that whole thing.
So real quickly, like, let's say they do bring in another, long snapper. Who's the guy that's out then, right? You would have to make a corresponding move.
Yeah.
Who on this 53 that we were just talking about, all finalized, would be that odd man out? And I mean, like, I'm looking at that running back spot. I know Velas is supposed, was listed at wide receiver. Like, would Travis Homer be that guy? I mean, maybe that would be a candidate, but obviously, if they do bring in another long snapper, someone needs to be out on this initial roster here. But if I had to put somebody on there, I'll put Travis Homer as my guy that possibly could be the odd man out there.
So I'm looking again. I think practice squad players can be elevated 3 times. So that's what I mean. They might not have to make a roster move. If I'll get this sorted out by tomorrow.
Okay.
But there might be a situation where they don't have to.
Bill Murray would be another one, actually.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah, but then if you just elevate them, then you don't have to worry about the 53. But then you can only do that a certain amount of times, and it's 3. So, but that buys you a few weeks.
Yeah, that's
potentially. So just something to keep in mind. All right. Let's get to supers and get out of here because we do have another show later tonight as well. Zero Demon, $5. I'm bored.
Oh, Greg was supposed to read this one. That's right.
Oh, go ahead, Adam.
You got this, Greg.
Oh, okay. I'm the fucking nutsack guy. All right. I'm bored. Do we think that Sunnyside will get an ad today since it's as hot as Satan's nutsack?
Fortunately, Sunnyside did not get an ad read on today's show.
That's great. I get to be the nutsack guy.
Yeah, I think so. Crystal Simone, $20. I'm sending Super just because it bothers others that I spend my money.
Get him, Crystal.
Hey, CHGO, thanks for the amazing content. As Cap would say, take that. LOL, love you guys. Bear down.
Let's go. Appreciate you,
Crystal.
Look forward to seeing you at the tailgate.
And Gritty, $10. I hope you guys have secured any towel racks you have in the bathrooms there in the office with Brags on set. Hashtag Brag Strong. Also, Hoge, Micah Parsons, JK.
Yeah. So if you guys aren't aware, this morning I was trying to leverage my way into the bathroom, and I put my arm on the towel rack on the wall, which is held by these little itty bitty drywall anchors. Yeah, and my dumbass thought that was going to support the weight of my fat ass, who can barely stand or walk or crawl or do anything remotely possible, and I ripped the rack completely out of the wall.
Did you go down with it?
I did not.
Okay, good.
Yeah, good.
I did not.
That would not.
R.I.P. to the towel rack. Right.
Yeah.
Crystal adding $2. Now you can all calm down.
There you go.
It was in regards to the long wait for the show to start.
Yeah.
Well, we weren't calm either behind the scenes, for the record.
Yeah, Hoge was yelling at me about Micah Parsons for 20 minutes.
It's like 20 seconds, but sure, I'm sure it felt like 20 minutes for you. Zero Demon, $20. I need a meatball assessment of Parsons to the Bears.
Yeah, well, we've already been through this. I don't care what anyone says. Micah Parsons to the Bears because it fits my agenda of Ryan Poles adding a pass rusher and trying to win now and overpaying for someone that everyone wants Ryan Poles to protect his picks. To Hoge's point about the trade deadline, I'm all for it. If he wants to use one of those picks, those second round picks, to add another pass rusher like they did Montez Sweat last year and bring a multiplier to this defense, especially if they have a good record at that point, I'm all for it. I would have been all for them trading for Matthew Judon. I would have been, you guys all know me, if we had had a breaking news show a week ago that the Bears had traded for Matthew Judon, I would have been celebrating it. So I like the aggressiveness that Ryan Poles has already shown in some of the attempts he made. But, you know, every player, every thought, every idea of your strategy has a price. I'm not saying just go completely off kilter crazy here, but it's clear that Ryan Poles wants to be aggressive, and I don't think that's going to change here over the next 8 to 10 weeks. So I think Ryan Poles is going to be surveying all his options.
Yeah, look, I love the idea of adding Micah Parsons. Obviously, who wouldn't? There's no logic to me that makes any sense for why the Cowboys would make that move now.
Right. It's the same thing as Trey Hendrickson, right? Both teams are contending for a Super Bowl. They're not going to get rid of one of the key guys that's going to help them win in their win now window.
But you also have Parsons for under control for 2 more years, and like you're going to get the same amount for him next year. So you might as or in February if you wait till then to trade him. Like you might as well get what you can out of him this year because all you're going to end up getting is draft capital anyway. A lot of it. But you're going to get the same amount in a few months, so you might as well just let him dominate for you on defense right now. I just don't get any logic to why they would make that move now. But it's fun to think about. It sure is fun to think about.
I said, I was going to stay disciplined and not tweet about it.
Yeah.
Hoge even gave me credit for showing that maturity. And then Caleb Williams starts retweeting rumors. And I can't control that. When I am going to blame Caleb Williams.
No, because
he retweeted it, and then that makes me freak out.
Do you want him to still? Do you want him to still tweet and retweet things on his Twitter account?
Yes, I do.
Then shut up.
Well,
stop yelling at him. Stop yelling at him.
I'm fine with him stoking the Bears Twitter flame, but when you do that, I am going.
You got to know what happens afterwards. Yeah,
I'm going to naturally freak out along with the rest of the heathens on Bears Twitter. Thank you very much.
Heathens.
Keep tweeting, Caleb. Gritty $2. The Bears are no longer cut day merchants. #depth. This is one of the deeper rosters I've seen in a while. It was as hard as I can remember cutting this thing down when I was just trying to go through the exercise. Another one from Carrie. Holy crap, $50 just to say Braggs better be taking me for Taco Bell in Arizona.
Well, I'm happy to do a 2 a.m. Taco Bell run after we drink the night away. That's always an appropriate thing to do.
Why can't it just be for lunch?
Like a midday Taco Bell.
Why does it got to be at 2 a.m.?
Because it's got to be something where you have like tons of regret the next morning. That's the only way that you order Taco Bell. No,
2 a.m. Taco Bell
the
run.
Thing I'm eyeballing, and Matthew Gregory, our diehard who lives out, out there in Arizona. I spent some time with him when I was down there for the Final Four. We went to Grimaldi's Pizza. And so we're going to Grimaldi's. We'll even do a live show there if I have anything to say about it, because it is the best pizza I have ever had in my entire life. And we have great pizza here in Chicago. Shout out Salerno, shout out, Aurelio, shout out all the good pizza joints here. Pequod's, Lou Malnati's, we got it all out here. But Grimaldi's, I'm telling you, I swear to God, I don't know if you guys have ever had it. It is the best pizza by far I have ever had in my entire life. It was like eating crack.
Wow.
Is that the place we tried to go to, Nick, in Arizona a couple years ago?
Oh man, I don't even remember.
Is that the famous place that's like just north of downtown, kind of in Phoenix?
So Ian Happ talks about it a lot on his podcast. When they're down there for spring training, it's like his go-to. So a lot of Chicagoans know about it from that. But I promise you, we're going to Grimaldi's, and you will not be disappointed.
Let's go. Let's do it.
Greg has every meal planned for the 72 hours we're going to be in Arizona.
When I woke up from my knee surgery, the first thing I started telling Jenny was like what I wanted to eat when I got home. And then when I got home, I was so nauseous I couldn't eat. But that was the first thing. Like when people say, like, what are you thinking of in this like weird state you're in? I was thinking about food.
All right. Carrie, again, $20. Got to shout out Steven for all he does. Hope to meet you in Arizona as well. Yes, you do have to shout out Steven.
Thank you, Carrie.
He's been grinding away too. He's going to be basically working the entire time between now and Hard Knocks.
Don't say that. That's true, yeah. Thank you, Carrie, though. Can't wait to meet you.
All right. And then What else we got here? Crystal, $20. Nick, can you read this one? I gotta check my audio real quick.
Yeah, my super is for Carrie because he's trying to take my job in one day. Love to see it, Carrie. Great show, guys. Bear down, Braggs. Rest up. We are going to need you at tailgates. Take the advice, Greg. We have some time before the regular season starts. We need you at tailgates.
Mm-hmm. I'm ready. I'm excited.
And then Carrie again. Like how? Man, this has to be like a record for super chats in one day. But Carrie, $20 super chat. Not possible, Crystal. You are the CHGO GOAT heart emoji. We have so many great.
We love it.
In this
There's
chat.
a little competition going on between these two.
The friendly.
Let's keep it going. I love it.
Gooby.
All right. Gooby, $2. Dallas is pathetic at running back. Herbert trade for picks.
Yeah, that's how we'll get Micah Parsons.
You get Khalil Herbert. We'll take Micah Parsons.
Good night, everyone. We'll see you tonight.
All right. How many more we got here? Pizzatola, $5. Happy CHGO roster cut down day. With any luck, PHNX or PHLY will poach Carm from the practice squad. 237 fumbles in 2 years.
Pizzatola.
I like it.
Never misses.
Like it.
What a great name to be the Carm troll too.
Yeah.
Pizzatola.
Yeah.
Iconic. Yeah.
It's like a
Ferrari 34, $5. Who's most likely to get cut if we grab someone from the waiver wire? Our wide receiver who can't catch, so we hand him the ball, or Dom Rob Homer.
I put out Homer earlier. So
to me, Homer. He's not gonna get many carries, but who knows?
Yeah. I don't think it's going to be Velas, guys. Although I do think Velas was on the bubble. I don't think he was guaranteed a spot, so it might still be a spot to watch. Skill, $199. Max Crosby midseason.
Let's go.
Sign me up.
Hey, Austin Booker trained with Max Crosby. Let's do it. Just bring them all here.
Guy Finley, $5. Love you, Braggs, but you cannot hold Caleb responsible for your inner meatball. Not saying, just saying.
Yeah, I absolutely can, and I will. It's your fault, Caleb Williams. Love you, but
like a little love you.
Every action has a reaction, and when you tweet, I freak out. That's what I do.
Was that the last one?
Budget supers.
Yeah, that was it.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
Big time show here.
Mm-hmm. People were waiting, and we had to wait on the Bears, but we got it in, and yeah, good show.
Yep, we got Hard Knocks coming up later tonight. Excited for it. Gonna be fun.
Yep, we are 3 hours away right now from Hard Knocks starting. We'll be, as soon as that show ends, we'll be on around 9:00, breaking it all down. I don't know how much of today's stuff they'll be able to get in. Because didn't Shannon tell us last week that 10 a.m. is their deadline?
Yeah, I doubt. I'm assuming they'll save the cut stuff for next week.
Well, they did make some cuts the last few days, so they might have some of it.
I think we'll see, the Ian Wheeler,
Ian Wheeler.
him getting hurt. I think, he's going to be scheduled for surgery here soon on his ACL. So all the best wishes to him in his recovery. But I do think that might be something they spotlight here tonight, as they've been kind of following his story.
All right. Gooby 199, can't let Micah see this live stream. Please, guys.
He's watching.
Yeah. And Quasi Dolfo Mensa sucks at his job. Zachary Hilborn says 199. Okay.
Throw some shade at the NFC North.
Yeah,
that's just a random shot at the Vikings. And the show. Okay.
Well, they just cut one of their first round picks.
Lewis
safety.
Yeah, the safety. So,
well, hey, give George McCaskey his credit. Ryan Poles was supposed to get on a plane to Minnesota. They didn't let it happen.
Very good. Very good.
All right. Pizzatola says, great show. Thanks, Carm. And that's a good way to end. We'll be back in a few hours. Hey, do us a favor real quick. Take this link, send it off to a friend, and say, hit subscribe on this. Send it to a Bears fan and tell them that we're going to be doing shows from now until the end of the Super Bowl.
Yeah, get this link and send it to Mark Carmen and tell him that we're working.
And then yeah, we're working a lot. And we'll continue all week because you're not here. And then also hit subscribe on the 85 with Cole Kmet. New episode coming out tomorrow. CHGO Bears After Dark a few hours from now. As soon as Hard Knocks is over, Corey Wooten will join us. We will talk to you then.
We all silly like the mayor.